Has this ever happened to you? One frigid morning, I grab my warmest coat. I reach down to zip the zipper, and it's way down here because it's a very long coat, and the zipper won't budge. I pull, and I push, and I take it apart, and I pull, and I push, and I pull, and I push, and nothing's happening, and I need the coat to zip, and I'm late, and I'm from California. Now, there are probably more rational things to have done, but I did not do them. I instead pulled with all of my strength words that I make it a practice not to say, bubbling up in my mind, until I whipped myself into a quiet frenzy. The coat is broken. The world is broken. It's all too much. From broken zipper to broken world in 60 seconds flat. And as that feeling moved from my kishkes to my head and a calm descended, I thought of how many conversations I've had with members here about how close to the surface that feeling of overwhelm is for so many of us. At this time when our shifting ground, where our assumptions of what is usual or what is expected in everything, from the political to the technological to the economic to the global, whether you think those changes are good or not good, they've been so rapidly changing that one could be forgiven for experiencing some whiplash. How do we meet this moment? Well, where my coat was concerned, in order to get unstuck, I had to start with what wasn't working and try something new. And it just so happens that last week, as I was preparing for this, our first ever contemporary Shabbat this morning, I went down into our Temple Emmanuel archives, a super cool place. If you've never been, ask somebody to give you a tour. And I was searching for the first contemporary service booklet, this. And what I found there surprised me. The year was 1970. And Rabbi Samuel Cheel had been here just 2 short years. In rabbi years, that is brand new. And he and the lay committee who joined him created this incredible non-traditional service that was so powerful and so beloved that every second day of Rosh Hashanah, in the nearly 55 years since, it remains our most robustly attended service. Now, the sweetness of this service, all of us who were blessed to know Rabbi Cheel could have predicted. But the edge, not the first thing that most of us would think about. And yet, flipping through the pages from prayer to poem to song reveals a masterpiece of courage and conviction for his time on 2 levels. The first, as Mrs. Cheel so beautifully puts it, Rabbi Cheel lived kedin ukedat, holding precious the traditions and the laws of our people. And there were in his time, as there are today, many for whom the tradition done just so was critically important. And yet the service he compiled, a pamphlet, so much more than a machzor, had a mere nod to the matbea tefillah, to the prayer service. And it must have been controversial to the traditionalists of his time. It was musical. Lou Siegel, the beloved musical director at the time, is listed here as an officiant. It had translations and transliterations so that even if there was a lot of Hebrew going on, everybody could follow it. It had art and hand-lettered lyrics to a relatively new folk song at the time was inscribed here, Yerushalayim shel zahav, which, contrary to thousands of years of street cred attained by the traditional prayers in the Machzor, had just been released 3 years earlier. And yet, in 1968 and in 1969, you got to ask yourself the question, how did this traditional rabbi get here? Well, those 2 years, Rabbi Chiel had looked out into the pews on the second service on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, and he saw something that he was not capable of ignoring: empty seats. What could he do to bring people in? How could he create something that people would want to show up for? It was broken. But rather than continue to fight with that brokenness, he asked, what can I create that will bring something beautiful? The most perfect service, he taught us, is not always the one with every halachic box checked off, but the one that reaches and teaches, the one that lifts and moves everybody to join in. After all, isn't that what we are doing each time we come here? By dreaming outside of the box with a service that invited people to access traditional observance in new ways, to sing and to think deeply about the what and the why of the day, Rabbi Chiel brought the second day of Rosh Hashanah back to Temple Emmanuel. So I want to ask you, what is feeling blocked and not working for you right now? What energy can you bring to look at it again and renew? So that takes courage. And secondly, in this book, the second type of courage that he showed immediately right off the bat in this service that he compiled in his introduction, Rabbi Chiel wrote, "The readings and prayers address themselves to the relevant problems of our day." He wasn't kidding. Peppered throughout this service are anti-war poems and prayers, including the fiery words of a 1963 song, "Universal Soldier." The words go, "And he knows he shouldn't kill, and he knows he always will. He is the one who decides who will live and who is to die." That echo of the Unatana Tokef is later matched by just the final paragraph of the prayer, partnered with what is titled a new Unatana Tokef reading, which imagines who shall be shattered by the earthquake of social change and who shall be plagued by the pressures of conformity. The ongoing question for Rabbi Chiel in his day and for each of us in ours is, should the shul be a sanctuary from the world? As in, don't talk about the troubles of the world, that just ruins my Shabbos peace. Please leave it off the bima. Or should the sanctuary be, as the old adage says, a space that comforts the afflicted and afflicts the comfortable? Rabbi Chiel had a clear answer in this service. Option B. Get inspired here to make a difference out in the world. Do not be indifferent when things seem hard or even insurmountable. When we feel so small, the sanctuary is a place that we can come together to remind us again, do not give up. From start to finish, the contemporary service that Rabbi Chiel chose to bring to our community is focused on that mission. Now, Rabbi Chiel had a well-earned reputation for his gentle, gracious, and generous voice. He spoke softly. He drew you in. He cared deeply. And most of his sermons speak beautifully to the personal challenges and the trials that we all at some point must endure, offering steady guidance and reassurance. But one particular Rosh Hashanah, it is recalled, he spoke with a prophet's outrage against what was an exceedingly political issue of his time. He delivered his fiery sermon in the first service. Afterward, during the break in services, Haskell Shapiro of blessed memory stopped him and said, "Rabbi, what's your plan for the second service? You know, I don't think you should deliver that sermon." Again, it made people uncomfortable. To which Rabbi Cheel replied, "That's why I need to deliver that sermon again." And he did deliver that sermon again. There is a time for sanctuary from, and there is a time for sanctuary for. At Temple Emmanuel, Rabbi Cheel mostly did the former, his golden voice and gentle grace bringing people together. But he definitely also did some of the latter, courageously and sparingly when appropriate. And so I want to ask you today, when you emerge from this place, what will you use? What you have learned, what you have found in your heart here for? What will you do to bring your vision into our world? Somehow, whenever Rabbi Cheel spoke out, though, it was also suffused with menschlichkeit, with humility and empathy and aspiration. And so Rabbi Cheel really practiced the idea that is seen in one of the readings that we encounter here, A Lover's Quarrel with the World, which says, "Let it be out of love, not envy. Let it be in order to correct and to improve, not just for the sake of tearing down. Argue, but do it in order to bring the world to a better place." I've heard only 2 stories of anyone ever disliking a Rabbi Cheel sermon. But here is the second one. I can't imagine that there were too many more. My gut tells me maybe these were the only 2. But here is the story that is told. So he tells his sermon, and there's another gentleman who disagreed with what Rabbi Cheel had to say so much that he walked out in the middle of the sermon. Now, those were the days, if you turn around, you see where Rick Thau is standing. Those were the days when the ushers used to tie off a rope right there to hold people at the back, he's showing you now, from entering during the rabbi's sermon. So to walk out took no small amount of effort, and it did not go unnoticed. The next day, Rabbi Cheel called the man up, and he said, "Can I come to see you?" They set a time, and at the appointed hour, the rabbi arrived to a chilly reception. But they sat and they talked until Rabbi Cheel said, "It's all right for you to walk out if you disagree with me, but let's be more than just our disagreement. Let's be more than just our disagreement" is a masterful recipe for real relationships right now, a recipe we need now more than ever. After talking for quite some time, the 2 men did not come any closer to agreement. But as Rabbi Cheel rose to get his coat, the gentleman who had been so furious rushed in to hug him. He continued to disagree with Rabbi Cheel, but he loved him even more. That's the kind of godlus, the kind of greatness we need for our time. Disagree with me, even passionately, but let's still be friends. Let's be family. We are in this together. Rabbi Chiel met his moment, and he taught us how we can too. First, be open to changing our approach. Second, do not shrink from speaking out about what you believe in. And third, if somebody disagrees with you, be like the disciples of Aaron, even as we disagree, drawing ever closer together. On this first contemporary Shabbat, as we recall 55 years of disruptive inspiration that Rabbi Chiel gave us so long ago, the world has changed. We face different heartbreaks, different disagreements. But the legacy of Rabbi Chiel lives on. Let us meet our moment as he met his with courage and conviction paired with empathy for others that enables us to never, no matter how things change, give up hope that in meeting our world as it is, we can, in this place, together summon the resilience to gently, wisely move to a higher place. May we be blessed to do that.